Hey, this is Misery Loves Company, a weekly social reading series hosted by miserytourism.com. Every Friday, we welcome outsider and transgressive writers to share their work with us. And it's Friday again, and it's a normal one too. It's been kind of a wild few weeks here. We took a couple weeks off for Christmas and New Year's, and then we were back for 1 week, and then we had that awesome like crossover event with Witchcraft Mag. And now we're back doing a normal, regular ass Misery Loves Company. So, hey. So
Can you
first up,
post this to your dad's YouTube channel so people actually watch this?
you know how many subscribers my dad would lose? He's at over 700 subscribers right now. He's almost at 800 subscribers. At 1,000, you can monetize your channel. The Misery Tourism YouTube channel is at like 100. We will never be monetized. So I am not going to do anything to screw this up for my, for my dad. Anyway, let's get into this thing. First up is Ryan. Not Ryan Bry, the other Ryan. I know that could be confusing. And Ryan, I forget, what's your last name or the last name of your like nom de
But I
plume?
just I just dropped that. I got really obsessive and shit, and I couldn't even figure out what I was doing with my name. So I'm just keeping it like that. Like, yeah, anyway. So I'm just gonna read. This is from the latest issue of Hall sorry, of Hull House magazine, and it's the novel I'm serializing called Scarred Zero Will. This is from the latest chapter, which is chapter 4, and I'm just gonna read just like one section of that. So this section is called Beam Creeping. He tries to hold the Zen as the nodes change over, but the taste of Black Earth is the taste of his tender's foundation. The nodes are now cross stakes, their counters slanting across in asymmetry with their placings, so that any two will be reaching for the same crystallis, now smoothed over to allow spikes more jagged from their basins. Where they cross, they glow, chord verve that brightens partway across the slants, lesser on the downslope, further on the counter ascensions. All he sees of them is a marker for every corpse still walking, above or below is gravity's pull sets. Stay frosty, Cammy says. She's tuned her fractalia lower, or arranged it with the exhumed skyne, now mere diamonds that spray over where she's looking in machine gun bursts of shine. Deer hums his ascent. All that does is stumble him, where he'd been keeping pace before, shutting out the ache in his feet. Looking down, he sees tatters of grub skin spilling out, curling and fronding, tears papering the crystal and flickering off as he steps away. The sky is a deep teal, the node glows mere prayers, faded out before getting near it, letting a low dusk wash claim the net, except for Cammy's diamonds burn like fun candles. He fights for and finds his footing again, at cost of the ache digging deeper, and him gritting his teeth against it. Beam of light to the east, and this one finds the sky, bright blue, and when Cammy swerves to stare, shot through with pink like the quicks of his old, lost nails. She says nothing, but alters her course, and by the shimmer dancing 5 points around her, Deer is coming with. He follows, traipsing across crystal, moments like full wake cycles in the gnawing pain. They stretch like Cammy stretched the notes in her song. And his limbs stretch too, and the whole time Cammy's kept her shape, none of this getting to her, like waking out Memdep, she'd heard her true voice within and liked how it sounded. The blue beam creeping to tower where before it had split, in a sliver of width, the sky of Sunnet. Sunnet, he thinks, as if here we're all still solar, as if the whole thing wasn't on life stasis, as if keeping that stasis wasn't the whole point of the black walls. The death stares of the standstill corpse that had rooted him himself, until Deer had led him forward by making up his own ground, his own space. He'd passed through, and Morgan had known, can't let him go in there alone. Except he hadn't known, only thought. The moments had spun out to eternities, and his spirit been a blissful patience against the pain. But the pain's fading now that they stand stock before the tower of light. The Fractalia corset pumps pink through it in a furling plume that reaches long above the two, and he knows that Etha sees them silhouetted against it, that they're still within its sight, its marking ground. Because Cammy had bent their passage to the pull of whatever this is. Cammy with her eyes fixed on it, daring him to comment. Deer is gone, the pallor of her shoulders bared and glittering in the back glow of her stare. It's my exhumed, he tells himself, and the tower's hue is fixed. But hard to make himself believe that, because Deer doesn't want to be around for what's happening. And even as he thinks that, she sighs, long, drawn out, no song in it. Sighs, and her shoulders are slumping, and she totters in place, leaning towards him before snapping herself back the other way. And the tower is full-blooded pink, as high as he can see, before the light is so distant he can only make it out as a pale shine that offsets the gloom of sky. Offsets and then courses the sky, and there's no mistaking the spill of glow that races across it. It races in patterns, trigrams at first, before more and more lines of light cartwheel the fray, the sky webbing over in this new heat. The whole sky blurring with heat until in totality the raw of undernail and light has spilled across the slanted crosses. Their own globe weak, pale, and now washed out. But against that, their need for it was fierce, or so the exhumed tells them, as if to solve the guilt he gets when Cammy looks at him, wretched again, fiber strands revealed in this new light, grasping and pulling back the way she pulls back from him now. That's it. Thank you.
Ryan, man, I'm having trouble here because I want to say the same thing I always fucking say about your reading, but it's always true, which is that your descriptions are so vivid and so fucking gorgeously realized. And what's more, it's not just like the descriptions, it's your use of language, it's your word choice. Like, so like genre fiction, like spec fic, like sci-fi and fantasy shit has a tendency to use a lot of invented words and a lot of invented language. And you use some invented words and invented language, but the difference between what you're doing and what a lot of like spec fic authors do is just astounding to me, because so often nothing takes me out of like a piece of sci-fi than the silly ass words that like sci-fi writers will invent to describe a piece of technology, or to you know what I'm saying, like it's all this really clunky, ugly, silly language. And you're writing, even though it's science fiction, even though there's like sort of quasi-invented language here, is the exact fucking opposite of that. Every word, whether it's like common parlance from our world or whether it's something otherworldly, feels like perfectly chosen and feels magical and has a real like beauty to it within the prose, right? It enriches the prose instead of like taking the reader out of the prose. And I'm done. I know I always fucking say this, but it's every time, I'm struck by it.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you for reading, Ryan.
No problem.
Yeah. Rudy's up next.
Yeah, Ryan, that was sick. I like the description of that tower thing, the glowing tower. Like I said in the chat, like towers are just these big ominous ones in the distance are kind of my thing. I like that a lot.
Thank you.
Let me pull my piece up here. So this piece tonight, this is a kind of League of Legends chess problem crossover. I think Derek might appreciate the chess problem. So the chess problem, this is based on, I got the idea for this based on, it's one of Sam Lloyd's. It's called Charles the 12th at Bender. It's loosely based on that, we'll say. So the whole deal with the with that chess problem is that the dude is in like a battle and his pieces are being shot off the board, and each piece that gets destroyed makes his position increasingly more complicated. So this is sort of League of Legends themed version of that, I guess. Yeah. So if any trolls are here, come on out, boys. Come on out and play. No, this is called Charles the 12-year-old on a bender, a League of Legends problem. For Sam Lloyd. In the year of our Lord 2021, Charles, steward of a messy bedroom until his brother Matt gets home, announces from his throne of blood red gamer fuel, Riven, 1 versus 1 me at Baron Pit, faggot, or kill yourself. Charles is king only in the eyes of his mother, which are closed because she's passed out in her room, banishment/sabbatical, while his father throws a party. Similarly, Charles is throwing a game of League, 9-34. He is support Thresh, a legit 7 of those 9, with a gold curve now looking as flat as a Borg's affect 21 minutes in. All KSs, according to his ADC. Backwards fucking play, according to Enemy Jungle. You take it backwards, homo, according to him at 19:51:30. Rito, please. 21 is his age backwards. Forward the direction he's shuffling, chains dragging into battle, into glory, while everyone else goes backwards, fleeing from him or the 7k hit points enemy Cho'Gath. And yeah, it's true that his berating of allied Ezreal as queer, as loser, as Charles himself threw some really questionable lamps and hooks, as Charles himself last hit hella minions for quote unquote support tax, was maybe 1 step forward and 2 steps back. And he acknowledges that fact out loud, but only because Desert Rose Band is crooning away on Dad's sound system and he can hear it, so he's singing along. Charles is pretty buzzed, the tower and Top Gun, from last hitting unattended beers, little maverick. Charles is pretty alone in his citadel, pretty chill, poster of pretty Riven with silvery hair and toeless boots, looking down her indistinct nose at his battle station. The picture is lit by icicle lights, green ones for busted blade, just like in the trailer, and just like outside the trailer. Through dark navy curtains, nighttime headlights. The duel with enemy Riven, a quote unquote dumb fuck idea, according to Posh, Faggy Ezreal, the canonically straight dude with a $25 skin his summoner didn't hardly earn, is to commence next to Baron Pit. Pit's already in Charles' stomach. Vietnam level shakes as he trudges through the jungle, indiscernible Asians watching him somewhere, Twitch, Uncle Jim's stories of a rice paddy somewhere. Gotta perform, college freshman, early 1972. He and Ezreal at least have a score. The things they carried? An 09 and 5 Talia, heavier than stones. Hendrix on machine gun. An 05 and 3 Jax, who might be a bot. And a top lane Malzahar, lol, with a score so bad that if he had even done 9-11-1 in a previous game, this performance would cause the MMR metric machine to spontaneously combust and create a void rift straight to HE double hockey sticks, where the 150,000 dead Iraqi civilians could walk out of the fire straight into cushy California tech jobs because immigrants are that kind of relentless, according to his uncle. When Charles arrives at Baron, the whole gang is already there. Ruh-roh. Tom Kent slicks his chops, tasting blood, catfish. /taunts are exchanged, some of them containing fake isms, nowhere near as real as the chat logs right now. A lucky Thresh hook drags out some opening slurs, enemy tears, QQ, which turn joyous when Riven starts her up-close dirty dance with stuns and knockback, knockout, knock on the partially ajar door, not now. Charles is Whitman and Chapin. Charles is Chaplin and Chafin. His hand knocks the beer over. Keyboard is doused instantly. Canuck brew is seeping in, wreaking switchy havoc on the board like Faker's LeBlanc. Hand movements become more intense. Hook key stops working. Q. Q. Precious seconds of CC are gone. But we got this. She's a scrub. Doesn't even know about animation canceling by the looks of things. Burst is still raw though. Door bursts open. Light. Dogs. People saying words. Some of them unfamiliar. Some of them in a belligerent tone that sounds like ranked midseason. Sounds like Yone saying, one to cut, one to seal, to some lucky fuck higher in the pick order. Hands gesturing in the light. A waving beer bottle? A tossed beer bottle. Labatt. Laughter erupts. Keyboard takes the blow. Charles is pissed with a little fear of Vex. Right hand strangling his razor, struggling to keep Thresh dancing. Come on, flay, flay. Riven is dashing, or the equivalent for a bitch. Such a bitch. And now that she's on top of him, Charles curses the poster. Fancy footwork and all. Need the hook. Q. Q. It's time for the big guns, the box. Spectral jail for this hoe. My beer, says some dead soul. But the R key, it's stuck down and won't fucking come on. It was impacted by the bottle. A reflection of this king's future or past? Fucking, I don't care. Just need to fuck. Someone is slurring outside the game for a change, lighting up the halls with niggers, a flash dark. Not too unusual. Someone is entering the room, closing the door behind them all the way. That's unusual, but good because it kills distracting luminance. Someone's hand is reaching for something, the bottle. Yeah. Charles remains focused. Flay. Flay. He wants his opponent's screen to be tinted light gray, the color of lost causes. At 3/4 of his health bar, the king starts getting primed for his last stand. He's been too much of a gentleman. At 3/5, he will become a fucking beast. But his HP is dropping very quickly. Lantern is gaslighting him. It used to be a better shield. Confidence deflates and floats away. Charles enters emotional dark water, as his dad and the child behaviorists call it. Eyes glazed defensively so he can't see the team chat. Opinions as frosty as the Freljord are shooting from distant fingers, and ebony coals scorch a mind turning from wintry to volcanic. Inward feels. Images of Lysandra, the little black girl he likes, saying nah to June dance. Hard root. He just wants to say it, but the unknown adult presence is a looming tribunal that could be sympathetic, but will likely be critical. The lamp is too far away. Riven's still rolling the keys. Fucking animalistic black bitch. Charles is so mad that he starts defeminizing her, nixing her identity like Rito did to him when they changed his IGN to Muckbreaker 09. Riven becomes her player, obviously a black kid 4 times his size, secretly courting Liz, then becomes just the male glands, huge and bulging. Maybe Riven's player has got a huge brain too, like Yakub from 4chan. Maybe Charles should gift Riven's player the Battle Bunny Riven skin so he can somehow refem his waifu while also making the enemy young, gifted, and black. Tell his swarthy opponent to pimp her out, make her / dance while he watches. Humiliation. But that's the victory dance, the cigar that Will Smith never lights. In reality, the chain-wielding spook Charles is in charge of is like a member of the nation of gods and earths, slipping closer to the marginalization of 5% life, striking distance for Riven's damage-triggered execution item. He's on death row, and the Broken Wings governor is on the prowl, collecting dark bodies for re-election. Shit. As a last hurrah, he aggroes Baron, hoping for, hell, I don't know. Nami rolls Tide. Those your guys? They aren't, but who cares? Hey, the shadowy figure persists as the Shadow Isles reclaim his champion. The text, "You are a fucking joke," agitates prominently before a seemingly less savage blow to the back of the head sends Charles into the ungentle night. The king is probably dead. ruin, probably a statistic as salient as armor or attack speed or critical strike chance, probably. He finds himself in the tween, which is some hereafter for kings, queens, and jokers waiting to join or dodge the next cue. Riven is here, along with a new gaming computer, sparkly hardwood floor, comfortable bed, pizza forever, youth forever, Batman forever. You know. Charles can see his bedroom from this place somehow, and his body laid across the ground, broken glass everywhere. Riven looks just like the poster, but prettier. Hey, fag, she calls to him. Charles blinks. Alice Sebold blinks, then scoffs. What? Charles asks. You just got raped. A pit large enough for 3 Confederate officers and their little dog emerges in his stomach. He stares at his feet. Just look. Charles raises his head slowly, shamefully, and peers into the bedroom. Still broken glass, still his body disheveled, but, well, nothing else weird. Riven is doing her fast Q combo right there in the little tween space. Broken wings, left click attack, repeat ad nauseum. The weight from her sword swings is oppressive. Tornado Alley shit. Not there, fucknut. Charles frowns and squints. Riven grabs his head, pointing it towards the monitor in the darkened tomb. The king reads, then weeps. Defeat. GG. Easy. That's it.
Man, holy shit, man. This is fucking wild. Now, there's one, before I talk about it more broadly, there's one detail that I want to talk about. There's one little thing you do with the language here that really fucking got me. And I can't believe like this never like occurred to me before, or that like you haven't done it before, which is, so you use QQ, which is like the crying face emotion, right?
Mhm.
And then later, when he's struggling to use, and this is so inside baseball lol, but then later when he's struggling to, so Q is a key. To try to explain this,
I
people who
know.
fucking haven't played League of Legends, who weren't forced to play League of Legends by you for fucking 10 years. So Q is one of the keys on the keyboard that you use to do your attacks, right? To do one of your main abilities is mapped to Q. So like the QQ crying face emoji comes back later when he's struggling to use his attack, when he's mashing QQ on the keyboard. And it comes back in such a like nasty, ironic way. Like it's such a fuck you to this kid. And it's just like such a brilliant in that second use of like language and use of like, I don't know, like internal like, self-reference or whatever the fuck, however the fuck you want to put it. So that's fantastic. But this entire poem is fucking great. And it's great because of the way it's written and the way it's paced. Like this is a depiction of this really frenetic, insane moment in time and it's like a frenetic, insane moment in time, both inside the virtual world and out in the real world, right? There's the party going on in the parents' house, and this poor kid who is like intensely focused on this LOL game that is spiraling out of control. He's having the worst LOL game of his life, and there's daddy's party. And the way that you pace this poem, the way the lines are structured, like the brevity of the lines and the intensity of the language so perfectly captures the rhythm of that moment. The language never bogs down, which is essential because there's so much fucking going on. And there are so many moments in the poem where the poem is simultaneously pointing inside the virtual world and outside at the like deteriorating social situation. And then the moment of where at the end where this kid has been fucking laid out cold and is in this kind of state of like psychological like limbo, and yet still like maybe dead, and maybe moving on to the afterlife, or maybe simply like unconscious and addled, and yet still nothing means more to him than whether than the LOL game that he was hooked on, right? And you capture that perfectly the whole way this this piece unfurls is like it's so good. It's so good, man. It's
Could I ask
yeah.
real quick what a LOL game is?
Yeah, League of Legends is a video.
Oh, League of Legends. Okay, got it.
Okay, yeah. Did
I
I
don't-
did I go through that whole rant without ever
mixing up my
saying?
abbreves.
Gotcha. Yeah.
It's the worst game in the world. And yeah, shout out to Alice Sebold and the Lovely Bones and shit. Oh Lord, I apologize.
Okay. Yeah, no, man, that was fucking awesome. So how did you like when did the QQ thing occur to you? Because it's shocking to me that you haven't used that one before.
Oh well, so Thresh, the champion depicted here. So League of Legends, you got a bunch of characters, and they all have different abilities and shit like that. Thresh's ability is a hook which drags people close to him, so that his team can kill him or whatever. And so like that's sort of like a natural thing. Like he's against a Riven, who's a really fast and mobile champion, so he's trying to get her with the hook so he can crowd control or
right,
so he can basically stop her from jumping around and this shit. But he's unable to do that because the key was blown off, and that's where it mirrors the
where
the
it mirrors
Charles the 12th thing.
Yeah.
Because that like his rook gets destroyed, and like
yeah,
that
because so the keyboard is
complicates
like
his-
the chessboard that's getting blown
Right.
apart. Yeah.
right, exactly, yeah.
Yeah. No, that's good. I was thinking more like of just like that linguistic, like the pun, I guess. I was thinking like
Oh yeah, I mean the QQ happened first, so like the crying face happened first.
uh-huh.
And I was
then
like,
you
oh yeah,
thought,
Thresh
later
as
you were
fuck
like,
is the
oh yeah,
Q.
he's gonna be mashing his
Yeah.
Q. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, the Q that's not there. or whatever
Right.
you want there, yeah, but yeah.
All right.
Thanks for letting me read,
Yeah, man, that was great.
and thanks for your comments, everybody.
Yeah. Jeff is up next.
Okay. This one I titled Welfare Cheese Orange. It was an invite only spanking party, and I forgot to bring my ass. Regardless, the mistress advanced and thrashed on my lung, beating that chest like a conga drum. My legs jangled along to the beat, though I'd never believed myself to be a puppet. My face turned redder than all the others. I burned from that chili pepper embarrassment. But that's what we came for, wasn't it? My car has flat tires. Buried in snow, you'd never know the flatness underneath. I have no friends, only old friends. People who knew that other guy. Someone cool, a mangy monkey that knew how to knit and whistle Dixie at the same time. Born again. I'm the new kid in town. I live 2 houses down from Graceland. With my ear against the wall, I can hear Elvis in his basement, live streaming from screaming parties. Uh-huh, is all he says. Every Sunday night, he makes millions from super chats. I observe him at the bakery on Monday mornings, surrounded by edgelords and thoughts. Can never get near him to say, hi neighbor, or buy him a shot. Mother threw chalk at us children. I couldn't dodge well due to having no stomach. Mother had sold it for Bitcoin, spent my lunch money for ads on 4chan. Finally, she found a cure for her racism. The other children stole my weed. The girls ripped at my jeans. The boys threw mud on my sneakers. White ones provided by the state of Rhode Island, the ocean state at its finest. More money per month sent from the government. A new school, clean used sheets on the bunk bed. I sold fentanyl to kids in the bathroom. More money per month out there in the free market. Nothing a bottle of orange juice can't fix. My savior was one of my daddy's CB radios. I would sneak up the stairs in his attic at night and get on that secret sideband, talking dirty to truckers from Oklahoma. Those nasty handles they made up for me. Lipstick, sweet cheeks, and the jalapeno things they'd ask me. Best conversations I ever had. Got them so red hot when they rolled down my avenue, pulling at my Indian belt, tearing off my dungarees. Then that stupid Elvis would have his security kick them off the property. And all I could hear was, oh. An imported Russian lady with a company car stuffed all of my clothes into a garbage bag, off to a new fucked up foster family. Another mother who'd keep me sicker than the last motherfucker. Oh, Elvis never says goodbye. Ultimately, this is why they had to perform surgery on me. Took out my heart with forks and knives, keeping it away from that CB radio so it would not get broken. Thanks. That's all I got.
My God, Jeff, that was fucking spectacular. That I'm actually like, I'm kind of like knocked down by this piece because it's so here's the thing. It is completely surreal, right? But yet completely mundane. Like every detail in this piece like gestures at something, like gestures at Americana, and like and if you were like to write a plot synopsis of this poem, you fucking couldn't, right? Because every detail is this kind of like American abstraction, this kind of like wonderful like reference, this kind of beautiful image that stands alone. And yet, in spite of that, this entire piece as a whole still tells a totally intuitively understandable and really heartbreaking story about this person's life and about like poverty and like emotional neglect and all this shit. And that like the ability to like separate like what's the fucking like psychoanalytic term? I don't know, like you've got like the symbol and the I don't know, if Forrest was here, he'd know the right terms, but you know what I'm saying, right? The ability to have language communicate meaning, even as it's become unmoored from the very specific thing you would expect that language to refer to. And the way that it works here is just, it's just really fucking, it's funny and it's heartbreaking and it's really effective, Jeff. I really enjoyed this piece.
Cool. Thank you, William. Maybe shadow was the term you were looking for. I don't know.
Oh, like the Jungian thing?
Maybe. Yeah. I don't know why I read a little JT Leroy, not Laura Albert, but JT Leroy, who still exists in my mind. And I don't know. I kind of went there a little bit, but thank you very much, everybody. I appreciate that.
That was a fantastic piece. Thank you, Jeff. Ryan Bry is up next.
Oh, me?
Hey, Ryan.
What's up?
Not much. How are you?
I'm good. I'm gonna read these off my laptop that I was allowed to take into the psych ward. Here. All right. Did you send the links through already?
I just did. Yeah, I
Okay.
sent the expat piece and the don't submit piece.
Okay, cool. I didn't notice, so thanks. Dance. Dance a whole cantacloon, weave patterns through the school, see the solar stars I can't see, through a dress impressed by the page, streaks of hair flinging fair, to know what I've had done, and smiling ear upon ear, to bring a light to one unscathed. All right? Holy contention. Breaking almost everything into being except Yahweh, who is being. Holy uptake of broken recoil, holy swallow of spit out pills, holy particle of everything that bled. Holy belongs to Yah, everything apart. Holy curse be all once blessed. Holy superhuman doing jackal on the screen. Holy nation that somehow remembers God. Holy patience that explodes because holy is the lamb that chews a bite of grass. Holy lamb that bleeds dialing his blood above. Violent as the lion whose claws gold as a canary. Holy as the swarm of its feathers into a single wing flight. Holy are you, made by Yahweh and blessings eternal. The long winter of Raphael Trujillo's eyes. How he always stabbed his chicken, fork first and whispered a smile, like it didn't matter how many times. That was Raphael Truvo, and it was in his eyes. He could go sailing on a plate of grease. He could mesmerize a pet gray monkey, or the other way around. My friend the Antichrist wants credit for this psalm, but he's not the Antichrist, because he says so. He's my friend. I'm going into the wilderness of my thought, with nothing holy but love for Yahweh, from a heart needing an instruction manual, and a soul fizzing like the buzz of Mountain Dew. The wilderness is prepared as well, like and with a table made of salted stone. At times I am light blinded that pinches my eyes, and the sand to speed to and away from my face. I am not the man that started this poem. I have more accomplished and think less of pedestals and gazes into the wilderness. The music I hear glides over me like river water. Everything you are going through rushes like river water over me. Cobblestone underneath my back, like 1800s movies river horses, trot around my cool breath. A stone rumbling with salamander, baby toys out of my mouth. And this is from the Don't Submit stuff. I saw the ends of the universe in her eyes, mysterious and bright, blazing every midnight, with a medallion curse. I trapped myself in the face of her soft sunlight. They pulse wintry skies and scars, glow like watery fire, over skin so purely gentle, tonight as a violin that carries you into destiny. Paradox healer. Are the cities jumping off their skins, rubbing colors that flush with the infinite? Do they thrum with their heart of impending calamities of music and exercise their harmonious pressure? A chocolate parrot whistles battle hymns as time hovers like a pancake, and wondering strikes each moving mind with its visual mark, a diagonal note. As I crowd myself in a stall, trying to heal the same pimple I've healed 3,000 times before, the city bodies are brainstorming on the inside, breathing unwasted time and oblivious that every wristwatch tells eternity goodbye. My immortality framed with blood, and my laughter beckons nervous bliss, the tide. All right, those are those. I'm gonna read one last one from my notebook. It's not online yet, so bear with me. It's called I Light 30. Hold on. Let out all the monsters from the church basements. Let all the flowers they've gobbled triangulate a paradise now. Let all the frames be set on fire so we can finally see just paintings. Let all the clocks display us how much time they've wasted, and let us use that fire to pattern a new reality whose birth will carry all the tinnitus in the air and sing it into new plants fuzzy as gemstones. As the reality that math will mean something again is more than mathematical, and that access is the spiritual plane of love. The design wants you to ask for a new one as you speed past this picture as a Gloria of unseen flora and take a bite of candy that waits for millions of years. All right, thanks everyone for listening.
Ryan, those were beautiful. Like, just, you know, like the spiritual agony of some of those poems, like the intensity of the spiritual agony and the very like simultaneously like very direct and emotionally powerful and uncomplicated way that you're communicating that the spiritual agony of these poems, right? Combined though with like the symbolic richness of it, like you really like feel like you're entering into, when you were reading, like I felt like I was exiting this world and entering like a world of like spiritual and symbolic forms. I know I said I'm talking about symbolism again, but there really is this like metamorphosis that happens in these poems. It's like exit from the world of like the mundane and the like, even without losing sight of it, right? Like the like this world, like the mundane earthly world, still exists in these poems as this kind of irritant and this kind of source of frustration and pain. But I love the way that you're like transported also simultaneously into this like more religious and spiritual realm, and like you feel the tension so strongly between those two like realities in this. They're really good, Ryan. They're really fucking good. I'm rambling, but they're excellent.
Thanks. I never noticed that aspect you mentioned. All right, let's see the next one.
Yeah, thank you, Ryan. John is up next. John Casey.
Hello,
Hey, John. How's
can
it
you hear
going?
me?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Awesome. It's very good. It's very nice to be here. You have to apologize. I'm a little bit zoned out. So this anti-post city. Above the vast metropolis, the metallic orb hovers. All is silent. Nothing else moves. Then as it passes over a large white building, the orb picks up a transmission. Welcome to St. Paul's Cathedral. See my fair and sturdy columns, deft entablature and ornate pediments. Behold the majestic symmetry of my colossal dome, cruelly broken by a grievous wound. In my guts still lies the unexploded ordnance. My splendid interiors are well preserved and provide ample testament to the importance of my unknown former purpose. This can be confirmed by comparing my ornamentation to the majority of other buildings. Look with your own CCTV, the blocky, meager, glassy things around me, prosaic and base. Few can compete with my superior aesthetic value. In the sacred mystery of dwelling, I must have played an exalted role. No doubt the architect conceived of me as a superior establishment. The orb submits an inquiry. St. Paul's Cathedral replies. The architect. In every building of Post City, buried deeper than the pangs of piling, is the residue of the drawing desk, the traces of the architect. We are the bones of the once living dreams of the architect. But the nature of the architect is lost in the mystery of dwelling. Since post-dwelling arrived, dwelling has become inscrutable. We see only the shadows of the absent dwellers. We can surmise their abstract specifications by our facilities, our staircases and doorways, our channels of water and waste. The true knowledge of dwelling disappeared with the last dweller. At the exact moment of the last dweller's disappearance, Post City was founded, coalescing to this wondrous museum capital and transcending the temporal cycle. Frozen in time, never to be leveled by storms, earthquakes, or eruptions. Post City, known more cryptically as Mausoleum of Humanity, is the eternal sanctuary of us who survived our dwellers. I am part of the powerful alliance with other neoclassical structures in my district, We shall rule until the fabled return of the city planners. Can you spy something moving below the city limits upon the glass plains? What distant ugliness besmirches my CCTV? The metal orb ascends, stops briefly, then begins traveling towards the escarpment that separates the edge of the city from the vast glass plains beneath. 0.6 kilometers away, a sprawling mass of concrete appears to be slithering towards the cliffs. Focusing its sensors, the orb perceives it is a derelict complex of shopping units, leisure facilities, and residential apartments, seemingly moving of its own volition. Skidding the immense bulk of a multi-story car park across the wailing glass, the complex flexes the mouldering limbs of its external staircase towers, while its support pillars stagger beneath with a foot-rot gate. There is a screeching of reinforced steel as a lumbering shift of the edifice reveals a boarded-up laser quest in the lung of a cylindrical hall. Throughout the sculptural carcass, the cyberpunk vibes have spread like cancer. As the complex hauls itself towards Post City, the orb absorbs its internal antennae to receive its transmission. Welcome to the Tricorn Center. See my concrete floors stacked high, hard lines, repetition, precision curves, plates shifting, layers sliding, stasis broken. Lament my piss stench dripping, smashed plasterboard, cheap polystyrene, ceiling panels, graffiti rush, angular brutality, a modernist dream turned nightmare. Welcome to the Tricorn Center. Rejected by the wretched dwellers of Portsmouth. They shirked my upkeep, then blamed my sores. I was too pure, too brave, too continental. Over decades of neglect, I withered from a utopian vision to a dystopian symbol. Then when I became too decrepit, they dragged me down and destroyed me. I was condemned to Anti-City, the slum city hell of those murdered by their dwellers. But animated by my rage, mimicking the motion of those dwellers who wronged me, I have escaped that necropolis and fled across the barren waste. Though the dwellers are long gone, I seek vengeance upon our memorial. Yes, I plan to demolish Post City. The ambitions of the Tricorn Center appeared futile before the high cliffs, this momentous conquest doomed to smash against the rocks and turn to rubble. After a long moment of observation, the orb suddenly shoots like a bullet across Post City, stopping dead above a long suspension bridge. Welcome to Severn Bridge, begins the transmission, but it is drowned out by the cataclysmic screams of tearing steel. Ripped from its seat, the great bridge is levitated above the surrounding tower blocks and terrace houses, and gracefully drawn through the air by the invisible harness of the minuscule orb. Transported beyond the city limits to the lower level of the escarpment, the mascate asphalt of the bridge is manipulated into position by unseen hands. Once the activity is complete, there stands a gentle ramp, leading from the sheer glass plains up into the vulnerable heart of Post City. The orb rises, turning platinum white in anticipation. As it surveys the wastes, its sensors perceive movement on the horizon. Several kilometers beyond the Tricorn Center, many more dilapidated buildings are creeping forth, inspired by the vengeful building complex. The whole of Anti-City is on the march, a monumental army of the condemned, coming to tear down Post City, mausoleum of humanity.
John, that was hypnotic. That was hypnotically beautiful, John.
Thank you.
I want more than just a taste of this. This needs to be a longer work, I think, because it's so fucking good. Because just captured in these few paragraphs is an entire world's worth of atmosphere and ideas. This whole idea of like a post-Earth humanity that's remembered through its architecture. And these images that you capture of the build, you can feel like the buildings moving and interacting with each other. And John, you're an artist too, right? I'm pretty sure I've seen you did the
My background's visual arts, illustration.
oh, okay.
And then
And
I
you
sort of
did
drifted
the
into
cover.
writing.
Oh, sorry.
But yeah, I did Stu Buck's cover.
Yeah, and you do some tremendous artwork. I would love to see this piece as like a graphic novel or something, because I think there's a whole like, because even while you were reading, like I don't want to say like Studio Ghibli. I'm only saying Studio Ghibli because of Howl's Moving Castle, right? But you know what I'm saying? I could visualize, I could see in my mind this universe you've created, and I kind of want to see it like on the page,
Nice.
you know?
Maybe if AI starts learning how to animate, then you can make the manga.
Yeah, right.
Or yeah, just feeding it. Yeah, sorry, I'm really spaced out. It's very late.
No, I think there's a little bit of lag here too, and I apologize for that. I think there's just a little bit of lag that's causing me to talk over you, and so I'm sorry. But John, no, it's
yeah, I'm glad you
phenomenal.
enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I think it could be a longer piece, a novel, perhaps. Or, yeah,
I think it should be a novel or a graphic novel or a comic or something. I think there's so much here, so much richness. I think this is it stands alone well. It stands alone very well, but I think there's a seed of a bigger idea here, and I'd love to see that too.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah, I
Thank
just
you,
wanted
John.
to say, I really like the different styles of architecture and stuff, like how they clash, like literally, like in this piece. Like my dad was an architect and talked about like a lot of like the brutalism style and like a lot of the stuff, how that clashes with some of the older shit, and how architects have to go around that and do a lot of like work to try to preserve the old while bringing it up to date and stuff like that. You have like the literal version of that here, like happening. It's really wild, like with the like where it's talking about how like the piss stained shit and all the fuck, but then you have like the really like striking brutalist stuff with the angles and all the other stuff. It's really it's a wild like trip, and without any people, it's really cool. I really liked it.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, that's my favorite building when I was growing up was the Tricon Center, and it was supposed to be this modernist dream, but it had been underfunded, and then it just ended up looking like Judge Dredd magazine, basically. And there's like a laser quest, and then like loads of shady shots and tattooists and stuff. So
it
like failing modernism kind of informs that kind of cyberpunk world, I think.
Oh yeah.
Thank you.
No, yeah, Rudy, I think you're right. That like literal clash of styles. It reminds me of like the fights you always see on Twitter where some dude is like, has some like traditional architecture rules account or something, and he's like posting pictures of like brutalist buildings and complaining about them, and then and then someone like me who actually likes modern architecture, or like Josh, will reply and be like, no, actually, like, yeah, sure, like the Colosseum is beautiful, but also like that Soviet style apartment building is beautiful too. And then that kind of fight of that you see operating in the digital space is kind of realized here in a much in like a much more beautiful and compelling way, right? Than watching two nerds fight on Twitter. But thank you, John. That was phenomenal. Gabe's up next.
Who?
Oh, Gabe. Sorry, you.
Okay. Sorry.
Oh, you're breaking up a little bit, or I am. Oh. Guys, is it my connection or is it Gabe?
You sound okay, William. I think Gabe crashed, I think.
Oh, okay. Give him a second.
Did you know that the 10th largest pyramid in the world is a Bass Pro Shop? It's the Memphis Pyramid. It's my favorite architectural fact, and one of my favorite buildings.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Although honestly, I feel like we can do better. I feel like if we really put our mind to it, a Bass Pro Shop could be the 8th or even 5th largest pyramid.
Yeah.
You know?
Is that any better? Should
Yes.
I put-
Yep. I can
Does it
hear you
help?
clearly now.
Okay. Okay.
Oh, maybe I spoke too soon, Gabe. You're breaking up again. Sorry, man.
Yeah, it looks like Gabe.
Oh, and I think he
Gone.
crashed.
He crashed. Yeah.
Is that better?
Yes, say a little more just so I can be sure though.
Directions to the former tour guide.
Okay, perfect.
I'll stop my video just to. You'll be east. I'll do.
No, Gabe, I'm sorry. You're breaking up again. I'm not sure I don't know what's happening with your internet tonight, but you made it 2 lines and then immediately cut out.
All right. Am I still?
Now you're better.
Is it still?
I'm not sure what's going on.
Okay.
Although there might be a little bit of lag between us.
I wonder because Robin's in the other room that we're both on Zoom or something.
See, right now,
am I any
sounding
better?
clear. You're sounding clear right now.
Okay.
Try talking for just a minute here before you start reading the poem, and I'll tell you if you don't break up.
Okay, I'll read this. No Liars in Heaven chick tract. This really happened. Our topic for today: when is it okay for the Christian to lie? We've got a caller on line 2. You're on the air. It's okay for Christians to lie. After all, Jesus lied to his own brother.
No, no, you got halfway through the chick track and then you cut out.
All right. Do you think that's it? Do you want to hop off and then hop back on when I'm done? Okay, Robin's gonna jump off and then jump back on.
Okay.
You're welcome to come in here too if you want.
I'll just listen to you in person, I
All right.
guess.
All right. Is that
Oh, you were better, but now you're frozen up again.
hello?
I
Is that
think
better?
I think so. I think so. Every time I say it's better, then it crashes. So I'm scared to say it's better, but it seems like it. Fingers crossed here.
Well, this is country living. What are we?
Oh no. Laurel. Gigi says this is becoming a Laurel and Hardy bit. Yeah. I'm bewildered. I'm not sure what.
I was gonna say, Gabe, maybe try turning your camera off.
Okay. Let me give it one more. I'll give it one more time. One more
Okay.
try. Can you hear me? Hello.
Yes.
Okay. Directions to the former tour guide. You'll be east on the 10 when a half blindness falls. Dare that way to gather on your left side periphery, beckoning via erasure. Surrender and ascend, your headlights, your diviner. Route the cones and rods of fire. Doubt, why does man climb a mountain? You cannot be triumphant without first being burdened. When you reach the top, holler, let me know if it's working. From then, a straight shot until you think about turning. I can't tell you street names, they often drop into washes of nothing. but you'll pass the ruined foundation of the Cantina Fire next to the fire station, then another bar still standing, whose owner hung himself inside before it was taken by the Italians. You can't see the dump, but I swear it's beneath that wind-shredded Old Glory flag there for a warning of the way our evenings go. We'll have to go there in the morning. Look out for the cow atop a liquor store. But if you pass that cross, Indian Dave was hit, you've gone too far, just like Indian Dave did. You'll make a left up that road they tried to pave 20 years ago, past the home of the colostomy bag scientist, his story, the saddest ever told, a man whose progress I no longer know, since I've been waiting for you to arrive. If you could see through a crack in a razor-wired fence, please note, it's not keeping you out, it's quarantining all the glowing, hollow eyes inside. Anyways, that's not me. It just means you're too close. Look, my no trespassing sign, I've been too resigned to enforce. Please don't mind the down power lines. There'll be no pleasantries on my porch. I've installed no alarm, so please don't be when you see me teetering on the edge of my roof. I'm not thinking about jumping. I'm just watching this great nothing so that nothing will happen to you. This is called the Uncontrolled and Unconsulted. Our initialism of TMI, or too much information, casts a synchronous shadow behind, elongating over transmarginal inhibition, the original TMI that shares similar definition, an organism's response to overwhelming stimuli. While the latter refers to trauma rather than the former's mere discomfort or irritation, both frayed strands braid a tightrope pressure on the neck, a tug of war forfeited, the gallows forever retrofitted by the unconsoled for the unconsulted. All that information inside your mind somehow defaulted to endless drops of leaky faucet. This is called When I Said Uncle. My mother flew in. We drove somberly from all direction, a reverse vacation emergency, uninvited and overstaying its welcome. Over the river, a bridge too far, over frozen water and through the woods, Grandma's daughter announced our arrival, yet we are lost despite inside of Uncle's spiral. He bled her dry, feeding her nothing except burnt toast, so at least she'd stay alive, and to keep her warm, he gathered enough garbage to block out the sky. Not a home, but a pigsty, where not even the rats could stand a chance among the mice mummified. And why are there hundreds of rusty knives beneath his bed, next to photos of women he took in various stages of undress? We attempt to clean, but stay busy gagging, dry heaving, with no. Is it bile or another lump in our throat neglected in spite of the burn? The only answer is both toilets are full of what looks like dysentery, and if you're thirsty, there is plenty of bottles of piss. And he can't even tell me why we say uncle in the place of mercy. What more can I say when we don't speak the same language and we're not playing the same game? If you don't know the rules, you can always say sorry.
Gabe, first of all, we made it through. Your internet connection held up, which is wonderful. Gabe, all three of these poems are fucking great, but I need to talk about the first one because the first one is next level, like wonderful. Like it's just okay. I think you know by now, you've been to enough of these to know that I have a real soft spot for like road trip stories, right? For like stories about like travel, and this is so perfect. This is like Lolita level perfect road trip execution, because just and I know Lolita is a strange comparison because this is so very different in every way.
No, I just know that's your favorite book, so that's like It's amazing to hear.
But just like during the road trip portions of Lolita, every site along the way, every place they stop, every fucking road sign has an added level of like psychological, emotional, and cultural significance, right? That the same thing is happening here in this first poem, where you really like you have the entire expanse of like American rural decay, right? And you have it presented not in this like prosaic or like didactic way, but in this really vivid series of images presented along a literal road, right? So you're like not only like it's this American wasteland shit, right? And it is perfectly vividly executed. You move from one little horrifying, sad, disturbing story to another without it becoming like, let's stop and let's look at this life, right? You're just rolling by, you're just flying through. And that final stanza is so fucking good because on the one hand, like it works perfectly as pure like explanation, right? Yes, you've got to be up on the road because you're worried for them, right? And you have to keep an eye out and make sure that they arrive safely because you've explained to us like the gauntlet they need to run to get there, but also like the emotional power of that sequence where like the reader thinks, oh yeah, they're going to jump off the roof too because they've seen everything that led up to that point, right? Like who wouldn't like be experiencing suicidal despair at the end of this? But the fact that instead of that, it's this kind of like Watchmen thing which is both simultaneously like just a tiny bit hopeful or at least a little tiny bit like you still have the optimism to be looking out for this person, to be looking out for this traveler who's going to be arriving, right? But at the same time, like makes this kind of like perfect psychological sense. This is just, you can tell by what I'm saying that this poem really got me. This one's fucking stellar, man.
Thank you so much, man.
Yeah. Thanks, Gabe. And Robin is up next. Robin, is your internet working? I know you're sharing a house with Gabe.
Yeah, we're on the same internet, so if it doesn't work,
Fingers
you know
crossed.
why.
You seem clear though. I'm not getting any lag or any issues. So
It just didn't like Gabe.
I'll turn my video off.
Okay. Let's see. So mine is a work in progress. So I'm gonna ask that you edit out my reading for the YouTube video because it's unedited right now. So I'm a little sheepish about it.
you know that's fine though. A lot of people read work in progress work from Misery Loves Company, and I can guarantee you that you're going to have a friendly audience here, and you don't have to worry about the YouTube thing. Our audience is relatively small. Nobody's going to show up at the YouTube video and write angry or critical comments or anything. You'll be fine. But anyway, it's all yours.
All right. So I'm gonna read an excerpt from my current whip, which is like a dystopian kind of like Handmaiden's Tale, where it's, you know, mostly about reproductive rights. In this future, like the birth rate of women is like way down. So what few women exist, they're forced into having to pretty much be breeders. And so this is from the perspective of one of the last few girls who were born, and she's growing up in this world. Mother hasn't been pregnant for years. Her body remains soft and shaped like a pear, but her breasts sag, and I've begun to see the wrinkles in her face that I've been warned about. I suppose it's hard to keep a pleasant, peaceful expression that won't wrinkle your face when you're in the midst of childbirth, but her belly hasn't grown in years. I didn't notice it at first, so used to the discreet first few months of pregnancy when the changes are so minute they're indiscernible. It wasn't until I heard the men talking that I realized how much time has passed without mother's body changing. It gets harder when you're older, you know. Everything slows down for them. It's such a shame, really. She was such a pretty thing, another man says. I listen quietly from the shadows. It is improper if I am caught. There will be punishment. But men fascinate me. Their lives are so different from mine. In some ways, strangely intricate, but in others, simpler. Sometimes I wish I were a man, but I remember the one time I had said so around mother, and she gripped my wrist so hard it hurt. Never say such an ugly thing like that ever again, she scolded. You are female, and that is a gift. Don't waste it. She can't have much longer, another man says. She's starting to gray. Yuck. I squint to better see the men. All of them have heads full of silver hair. Not long after, I woke up one morning to mother missing. I tiptoed throughout the palace, peeping into each room in hopes of finding her waiting for me. Every room that isn't occupied by a man. Every room that isn't empty is occupied by a man, sorry. I slipped away, hoping they hadn't noticed me. I'm startled when I'm caught peeking into a room full of men. My breath is released seeing that it is one of my brothers. What are you doing? He asks. Looking for mother. I can't meet his eyes, and I only hope my voice is soft and sweet enough. It's one of my brothers who was born before me. When I was little, my older brothers would pick on me. I remember the first time it happened. I ran crying to mother, expecting to be welcomed into her arms and for her to defend me from my brother's cruelty. She'd remind them how special I am, and that as a female, I needed to be treated with respect. Jewel, she said, stop your crying. The unexpected harsh tone of her voice surprised my tears into a stop. They are just boys. You can't take them seriously. The mature thing to do is to let it go. I pout and bite my tongue, or else I'm afraid I'll talk back, and I know that isn't very ladylike. I'm younger than my brothers, I want to say. Shouldn't they be responsible for me, just like I am responsible for my younger brothers? It isn't fair, and I stew in silence. From that moment on, I tried to limit the interactions I had with my brothers, afraid I'd somehow mess up again and be blamed for it. Even now, years later, my heart stutters as it remembers the injustice of that day, and knowing that my brother's world would be held in higher regard over my own, should we have a disagreement. Mother is gone, my brother answers, no hint of concern in his voice, entirely opposite to the worry that consumes me by the moment. Gone where? When will she be back? I ask. She's not coming back. He rolls his eyes and shakes his head. This is what happens to all females when it comes their time. Get used to it. He leaves me then, questions still bombarding my brain. Maybe I am too stupid to understand, like his tone suggested, but I can't stop thinking about the lack of emotion in his voice when he talked about his own mother. It's as if he didn't care. But what did he mean by get used to it? I ponder on this a moment longer before it dawns on me how few females I see now. I've seen men grow old to 90 or older, and yet I've never seen a graying female before I noticed it in my mother. Is it true that we simply don't live as long as the men do? Did it have something to do with the physically taxing nature of childbirth? After all, it is the main difference between females and men. It is our special gift to create life, but at the cost of our own lives cut short. Suddenly, I am aware of how old I am. A teenager with button breasts and gross hair growing in places I've never had it before, that I have to meticulously shave to remove. Puberty already has me in its clutches, and it's only a matter of time before I bleed my first period. I dread its arrival, for a moment desperate to somehow escape my destiny. I need a womb to bleed, but if I don't have a womb, then I become an abomination. With a dreadful sinking feeling, I realize there is no escape in nature. I wake up crying, my insides crushed in a vice grip. I'm dying, my organs crying out as they shut down. No, this can't be happening. I'm too young, too valuable, never even delivered my first baby yet. Men come rushing into my room. They detangle me from my bed sheets while I continue to writhe. What is the matter with you? It hurts, I cry, clutching at my abdomen. I'm dying. I long for mother's comfort rather than the cold, disinterested stares of the men. I reach out towards them, begging for help. Some of them are my older brothers. One of them could be my father, though he never had any presence in my life. Has she gone hysterical? One of them asked. No, it must be her time of the month. They talk as if I'm not there with them, as if I am a wounded animal there debating whether it would be easier to put me out of my misery rather than offer me aid. Silence, Jewel. You've disturbed the whole wing with your nonsensical crying. They leave me then, while my insides continue to collapse in on themselves. I curl into a ball and wait for the inevitable end, suffer in every moment. I wonder if this is what mother went through when one morning she was no longer there. How scared and alone she must have felt. Tears wet my pillow. Hours pass without interruption. The men know I am dying and give me dignity by not observing how ugly I am in my final moments of life. Every second I imagine it must be my last, but the end never comes. Eventually, the great pain that has racked my body ebbs, and I am able to move. I open my bedroom door. No men are in sight. Somehow I expected a few to be stationed outside, allowing me privacy, but nearby in case I need them. I wander the empty halls undisturbed. When I relieve myself of urine weighing heavily on my bladder, there's blood. I'm both shocked and relieved. No one ever told me it was going to hurt. I wonder if it'll hurt the same way every time, or how much childbirth will hurt. When I finish in the bathroom, I encounter one of the men outside. Finally through with your fit, he asks. Why didn't you tell me it was just my... I trail off, afraid to say the word period to a man. It wouldn't be polite. He shrugs. I can never tell with you females. You cry about everything. And that's it for my reading.
Robin, that was terrifying. You, but what really elevates this piece is how carefully you've crafted the psychology of this character, of your narrator, because so much of the tension and the horror of this is grounded in the confusion of your narrator, in what she doesn't know because of her age, and also what she doesn't know because of what's been withheld from her, right? It's the information that she doesn't have access to that terrifies us, and that like fills the reader with this like dreadful expectation as we come to understand things just a couple steps before she does, right? And you're so effective at pulling us into that psychology, at pulling us into her mind, and at pulling us into like the terror of this situation, and the knowledge that so much of that terror is not only a function of this like oppressive, awful society that she's stuck in, but also of like her own lack of information and her own inability to even ask for that information for fear of the consequences, right? Which is kind of like what great dystopian fiction does, right? Great dystopian fiction isn't just about like the horror of a society that's evil or that's immoral or that's, you know, unjust, but like it's about like the mental agony that comes in with existing in that kind of a society. And you nailed it. You nailed it. Fantastic job. Thank you, Robin. Coleman's up next.
Hey there.
Hey Coleman, how's it going?
Hey, pretty good. So I'm gonna read a poem I wrote yesterday. I looked at this prompt about the 7 deadly sins and I got wrath. So that's kind of what this poem's about. Here, I'll share my screen. So this is choice words. I hate you. You are so beautiful. I fucking hate you. I want to buy you a dog. You can watch it age over the next few years. Then it will die. Then you will cry like a bitch. I fucking hate you. I want to hack your legs off with a machete. I want to fling my feces at your children. You are one hateful asshole. I hate what you've done. I do not want to kill you. You are so beautiful. I want to sob on my best friend's shoulder. Then she will hate you. Then maybe I won't hate you as much anymore. I hate myself. I want to shatter your balls. You are so beautiful. I hate myself more than I hate you. And so that was it. Thank you.
Coleman, I loved it. I, I love, so this is a short poem, right? This is a short poem with short lines, and yet there are so many psychological twists of the knife within this short poem. Like so many moments when you think you understand your narrator's like state of mind, and then it turns around. Just like, you know, the agony of a lot of human relationships when you're when you're on the knife's edge, when you're like in this state where you know you feel something passionately, right? You know you feel something passionately about another human being, but it's only the moment that dictates what you feel passionately, you know, whether that's love or hate. And I love the dog thing too, because it's the perfect, like those couple of lines perfectly encapsulate the rest of the poem. Because on the one hand, like what sweeter gesture is there, you know, than to give somebody a puppy, right? And on the other hand, what more malicious and evil gesture is there than to give someone a living thing that they can't help but love, but that is inevitably going to die before them and leave them heartbroken and destroyed. And it's so good, Coleman. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks a lot, yo. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, man. Last up tonight is GG.
Howdy. I've got 4 kind of cutesy poems. They're short. I put a link in the chat if you want it. All right. This first one's called Drunk in the Morning. I don't know where my glasses are. I think, okay, this is how I'm supposed to see things. I smile and go pee. Watercolors. It's all watercolors. This one's called Katie. Katie, I want to snort your soft blonde hair like an Italian drug addict who spilled cocaine on their capellini. This one's called Wash Rinse. Washing the dishes is an enjoyable activity. By thinking that enough, you make yourself believe it. Washing the dishes becomes a little easier. Every repetitive physical task is like this. Dishes, laundry, shoveling snow, mudslides of loneliness in your ribs. They all cease to be sources of dread once you stop making yourself dread them. This is the last one. This one's called Nighttime Silly Mood. The way the word looks makes sense. Flower, good pronunciation, flower, flower, odd spelling, flower. Move your mouth around a flower, flower. Flower is a verb. Flowers flower, flower mouth. Let us flower. Let's hope we can flower. Maybe we'll flower. Flower power, etc. I flower you. Good night. And that's it.
GG. These are excellent. And as I love, like, you are able to take one thought, right, and twist it like, I don't know how to say this. You are able to, you can see the spark that gives life to each of these poems. And what's remarkable though is that you never take that spark. You can like see the moment of inspiration. You never take that moment of inspiration in the direction that the reader expects. It always becomes way more novel and way more whimsical than you'd think. And the flower poem, for example, is a perfect like example of that, right? Like that is a weird fucking word. Like that is a fundamentally odd word, especially as you said in the poem, like with the existence of the other flower with a U. that tendency, like you look at the word, and the more you look at it, the more it loses meaning, and yet the more it gains this kind of weird, abstract, like meaning that exists only in the letters themselves. You do a great job with that one. So the Drunk in the Morning poem is great because on one level it's so light, but it's actually really scary fucking poem. It's especially the watercolors thing, right? Because like the implication there, like, yeah, so like, okay, the world is kind of like, you don't have your glasses on, the world is kind of hazy, you're walking to the bathroom to go pee, and there is like, so the initial implication there is that it's just kind of like, there's this kind of gloss on reality, this kind of distorted thing that gives it this kind of watercolor quality, which you would think would be beautiful, but like in the context of like what you're looking at that moment, like when you're urinating, you don't want watercolors, right? Like there's a kind of dark implication there. You would like that to be one color, but Gigi, and all of that in like just 2 lines, just 5 lines. So I don't know, man.
William, Gigi
Thank you.
reads a lot of Richard Brautigan. No, I really liked.
Josh.
I actually genuinely really like, especially the flower one. The flower one actually reminded me of the book that Gigi recommended to me. What is it, Michael Earl Craig, The Talkativeness? I don't know, just not that you were trying to do the same style, but I don't know. And it was interesting. That flower one was interesting because, yeah, like sometimes with spellings of words, right? Like, well, William already said it, right? Like you look at it, it's like, is it spelled that way? Like that seems insane, right? But anyways, Gigi, big fan, but I think that your ego is already there. So I don't know why William is pumping your tires.
Josh, you know what book Gigi's poetry reminds me of? His book.
That's shit. No one should read that. Don't buy it. If you buy it just to throw it away so other people don't have to read it.
But I like, and also the watercolor one I do like, because I think I've written like a few that like are a similar vibe, different style, like the one about the piss stains on my boxer briefs. Anyways, just I like the Hangover poetry. Actually,
Ooh, if we're plugging shit, read Letters to Wendy's by Joe Wenderoth. It's the best book I've read in a long time. This guy like wrote like on those comment cards that you can have like in restaurants. He wrote bizarre shit about like, I don't know, porn and slavish love to Wendy's. It's crazy.
give a link.
Read
Put
it.
a link in the
Letters-
chat.
Sure.
Gigi,
Oh,
I
Gigi,
like.
one more question, Gigi.
Okay.
So Derek Main paid for the Twitter Blue, so he has a check mark. Are you following him?
No.
Okay. So the rule, okay, just because I know that you unfollowed me.
Like a samurai, I have a code. No check marks.
Gigi, I like your little virtual prop there. That was well chosen.
I'm from the San Francisco area. There's a flower in my hair.
If you're going to San Francisco.
Thank you, Rudy. All right. I think we're going to call it there.
One more for posterity. Gigi, is another book in the works?
Yeah.
Very good. You heard it here. You heard it here first.
All right. Thank you, Gigi. I think we are going to call it there. I apologize. I don't think we're going to do an open mic tonight. It's 10 o'clock. But as I always say, if you would like to read, just shoot me a DM, shoot a DM to the Misery Tourism account, and we'll put you on the list for next week. That said, I will be leaving, as always, I'll leave the Zoom meeting up for people to chat and hang out. Probably some of you will be doing so well into the wee hours of the morning, but I think we are going to end the reading section there.
Don't give it to Tyler because Tyler booted me last time.
I didn't know who I was leaving custody of the
He kicked me out.
the Zoom meeting with. He wouldn't
And
tell
then blocked
who
me
he
on
was.
Twitter. So don't leave it in his.
Now you might say, well, if
Carriage.
you wouldn't say who he was, why did you turn the Zoom meeting over to him? And that's a fair question. But no, I'll when the time comes, I'll find somebody. I'll make sure it's somebody who will treat you just
Amenable. Someone amenable. Thank you. That's all I ask.
Okay. All right. Thank you, everyone. This has been a fantastic night. As usual, just like really wonderful, tremendous stuff. And it was nice to hear from some new people as well. So thank you, Robin. Thank you, Ryan. And thank you to all the usuals who read as well. And this is just, it's been a great night, guys. So if you're watching this on YouTube, after the fact, we do this every Friday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific. Anyone is welcome to come and read their work. Anyone is welcome to come and just lurk and hang out. And we tweet out the link just a few minutes before from our Twitter account @MiseryTourism. And I think that's it. Thank you so much, guys. It's been a great night.